Good morning, PCC. You can go ahead and stand to your feet. We're so excited to worship with you, as well as our online viewers that are tuning in now. What an amazing day to worship God, to make His name known. Satan fall like lightning. I saw darkness run for cover, but the miracle that I just can't get over, my name is registered in heaven. I believe in signs and wonders. I have resurrection power. Can't get over, my name is registered in heaven, and my praise belongs to you forever. This is my testimony from death to life, 'cause grace rewrote my story. I'll testify, by Jesus Christ the righteous, I'm justified. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. Let's sing. Come together, sons and daughters, bought with blood and washed with water. We'll sing the praises of the Spirit, Son and Father. Our God will finish what He started.
The power of salvation,
his praise again. And oh, my soul, and sing like the heavens are waiting, roar like an army of angels, sing his praise again. From the moment of rescue, I have never been the same when his love took me captive. Oh, and my sin was washed away. Now I stand here forgiven, and I know that I'm saved, and I won't be put to shame. And oh, my soul, sing to the God of the ages, sing to the Lord of creation, sing his praise again. And oh, my soul, sing like the heavens are waiting, roar like an army of angels, sing his praise again. Remember how our God has never failed us. Remember that his name will make a way, from the cross to the grave. He is risen and he reigns. Praise the Lord. We sing his praise again. Remember how our God has never failed. He's never failed us. Remember that his name will make a way, from the cross to the grave. He is risen and he reigns. Praise the Lord. Sing his praise again. Oh, my soul, sing to the God of the ages, sing to the Lord of creation, sing his praise again. And oh, my soul, sing like the heavens are waiting, roar like an army of angels, sing his praise again. Oh, my soul, sing to the God of the ages, sing to the Lord of creation, sing his praise again. And oh, my soul, sing like the heavens are waiting, and roar like an army of angels, sing his praise again. We'll sing his praise again. Sing your praise again. We sing your praise again, Jesus. The weapon may be formed, but it won't prosper. When the darkness falls, it won't prevail. 'Cause the God I serve knows only how to triumph. And my God will never fail. My God will never You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good, and we believe. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. Yes, you do, Jesus. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Jesus. Oh, I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for You never put us to shame. You're still the promise keeper. We honor you. We honor who you are. You are holy. God, you are set apart. You never change. And you are consistent. So we choose to trust you once again. Just as we choose to praise you once again, we choose to trust you, God. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. I see. Sing, 'twas grace. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears You are forever mine. Thank you, Lord, for your presence this morning. Thank you for this time that we get to be with you. What an honor to worship with you all this morning, PCC. I love coming here, and it's just great that we get to worship our God who lives. So with that, you can go ahead and take your seats and turn your attention to the screen.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Pacific Coast Church. We want to say welcome to any of you joining us for the first time. We have a QR code on the screen and on the back of the chairs in the auditorium that you can scan for more information about PCC, sermon notes, upcoming events, and how to get connected and more. And if you're with us for the first time online from out of the Southern California area, don't forget to represent your city by texting PCC online to the number on your screen, and Pastor Mark will give you a shout out. Well, before we join back into service, I want to share a few exciting things coming up at PCC. This is your last reminder to sign up for Grow Groups. They start back up this week. Grow Groups are the place where you find connection, community, and grow deeper in your faith by studying God's Word and applying the messages you hear each Sunday. For more information on Grow Groups, text 94000, or if you're in person, grab the insert in your program and fill it out today. Calling all ladies. The gathering registration is now open, and we start back up Friday, September 16th. The gathering is a place for women of all ages and life stages to get together, encourage one another, and focus on women's topics from God's Word on Friday mornings from 9 to 11 a.m. This fall, we'll be going through Priscilla Schreier's Elijah Faith and Fire study. Register now on our website or talk to our ladies and sign up on the patio today. If you can't make it Friday mornings, sign up for our Monday night session interest list on our website. And for all you moms out there, MOPS registration is now open. You don't want to miss this opportunity to connect with women in the same life stage, receive support, and being encouraged and hearing from amazing speakers, all while your children are having fun and being well cared for in the MOPS Kids Ministry. The fall session begins September 20th. MOPS is for expectant moms to pre-K moms on Tuesday mornings from 9 to 11:30. Register today on our website or meet the MOPS ladies on the patio after service to sign up or get more information. Now for you guys out there, check this out.
Good morning, PCC. My name's Anthony, and I come to you this morning with two requests. The first request is for you ladies. Please look around and make sure that all the men around you are listening to my second request. Men, sorry I had to do that to you, but this is important. This request is for you. Saturday, September 10th. Join me and a bunch of other guys for a dudes-only breakfast. Don't worry, it's only an hour-and-a-half commitment, and we feed you. Somebody will feed you. There's gonna be food. Well, who's invited? Men are invited. What ages? Ages adult to 190-ish. What stage of life? All of them. What are we gonna do? A few things. You eat breakfast, you meet and hang with other men, maybe play some games. Don't worry, they're probably very manly games. And you learn about our brand new PCC Men's Ministry. Join us solo or bring a friend. Sign up online through the PCC website. I'm really looking forward to this event and hope you guys are too. There's so many of you out there that I don't even know yet. So come to the breakfast, say hi, and let's stop being strangers.
Once again, don't forget to sign up. If you have any questions, the guys will be out on the patio today. Lastly, if you're experiencing grief after the loss of a loved one, our Grief Share support group is starting back up the second week of September. It's a co-ed support group led by caring people who have experienced grief and understand that journey. During each session, there is a video seminar and discussion time. Our next Grief Share sessions start this coming week. We have a Monday night online group option at 6:30 and Saturdays in person at 1 p.m. Sign up on our website today. We want to say thank you for your continued financial support. And we also want to invite you to continue investing yourself in PCC through the resources God has given you, your energy, your prayers, your talents, and your finances. If you'd like to give to PCC, you can do so by going on our website and clicking the link to give. You can text PCCSC to 77977. You can mail cash or check to our church offices, or if you're here in the auditorium, you can drop your offering in the black boxes in the back. Thank you for all your support. Let's join back into service now.
Good morning, church. Also like to just give an extra emphasis on that men's breakfast coming up next Saturday. I'm going to be there as well, and just hopefully you guys come on out. The goal of this is to kind of provide clarity for our roles as men in terms of we hold many different roles. We have a workplace, we have our home life, all those balances and imbalances that can take place. And so anyway, hope you come out and have a good time together. Also want to give a shout out and welcome to our online visitor from Chippenham, England. Thank you for joining us. All the way from across the pond, thank you for being here. Also just want to give a thanks to Nicole and the worship team. Didn't they do a good job? Yeah. All that to say, happy Labor Day. Yeah. You know, I was reading about Labor Day. They said Labor Day is the most ununderstood holiday, and we don't even anticipate it till it's here. And it equals a 3-day weekend. So pretty excited about that. It's nice and hot out there, I will say that. But here's a tidbit for you, okay? A little nugget. So Labor Day started, first Labor Day wouldn't be a celebration, I'd call it a protest. Took place in 1882 in New York City. Do you know what they were protesting? Long work days, abusive employers, 12-plus hour work days. As a result of the Labor Day protest, a few years later, they came up with what we do today, 8-hour work days. There you go. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about this morning. But I was fearful of dating myself in the first service, but I saw so many peers that I thought, I'm not dating myself. I think I have a higher risk here today when I say how many, well, I won't even do that. When I was a kid, we had report cards in school. And we were given our report cards to take home. And their report cards would be, the grading system was A through F. Some of you remember that, right? And it was every topic. And then there was also the conduct grade. Do you remember that? And you remember those 3 categories? It was excellent, satisfactory, and needs improvement. Do you remember those? Okay, a little different today. I don't think the student can touch their report card because probably in our days, too many report cards never made it home. So they came up with that new rule. I think the grading system isn't A through F, but it's numbers now. Probably feels a little less, I don't know, if I got a 3 versus I got an F. I don't know, just guessing. And then I think the categories are a little different. But the report card is still around. I think the report card is still a useful tool because what? It shows your progress or lack thereof and how you're doing throughout the year and areas to improve. And you got all the topics, math, English, all those kinds of things. So you know where to focus on your improvement. Well, when we talk about progress, spiritually speaking, it gets a little fuzzier. In other words, nobody's handing out spiritual report cards and letting us know how we're doing, but yet we're called to progress and grow in our walk with Jesus. So, what can we do to help understand how we're doing or not, if we're progressing or not? What are just a couple filters or things that we can see or put our walk through that will help us discern that and if some adjustments need to be made? That's the topic this morning. I've entitled this morning's message, Report Card, and we're going to look at how to measure your spiritual progress. How to measure your spiritual progress by looking at John chapter 6 in our study through the gospel, verses 1 to 14. Now, this is known as the feeding of the 5,000, the miracle of the feeding of the 5,000. Interestingly enough, it's the only miracle that is recorded in all 4 Gospels except the resurrection. So it's unique in that way. And so all 4 Gospels have recorded it, so we'll get a little background, a little insight from the other 4 as well to kind of create the picture to make sure we are reading it properly. But if you've been with us in our study over the last couple of weeks, you know last week we ended a discussion about Jesus having a discussion with religious leaders. And that discussion was not just a discussion, probably a debate, a little bit confrontive, because Jesus was being confronted by the religious leaders of the day for healing a lame man on the Sabbath. Do you remember that? And they were like, you're a Sabbath violator, you're a Sabbath violator. Well, Jesus not only didn't deny he was a Sabbath violator, he went the next level, claimed equality with God, said he was the only way, the true Messiah, talked about him being the ultimate and final judge. And so their mind just went boom, and they went from Sabbath violator to accusing him of blasphemy and ultimately a contract out on Jesus' life. They wanted him dead, okay? That's where we left it last week. So in our text, in verse 1 of chapter 6, it says, after this, that discussion, Jesus went away on a boat, or it doesn't say on a boat, but he did go on a boat. Jesus went away on the other side of the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias. Now, context is always important. I've told you that before. And so John is not so concerned about timelines as he is topics. For example, John only mentions 7 miracles of Jesus. Matthew's gospel, 28. Mark's gospel, 22. So John's not all about miracles, somewhat about miracles, but the principle behind. And so he's not logging everything in chronological order. So when the text says, after this, we think, oh, right after that discussion? No, after this was another year of ministry. When you read the other Gospels, they call them the synoptic Gospels because they're together in their timelines. You see that a lot has taken place after the dialogue and before this discussion about the Sea of Galilee, Lake of Tiberias, 2 names used the same lake. So after this would have been after the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 5. After this would have been after Jesus raised that son of that woman in Nain from the dead. After this, in Luke 7, after this, casting out demons and healing a blind man, as recorded in Matthew 9. After this, delivering demon-possessed man in Matthew 12. After this, when they picked grain, violated the Sabbath, he healed a man's hand, violating the Sabbath in Matthew 12. After this, Jesus started speaking in parables, parable of the soils, parable of the weeds, parable of the mustard seed, parable of the leavened bread in Matthew 13. After this, when Jesus healed the demoniacs and cast out those demons into the pigs, remember, and they jumped off the cliff? So that's after that. After this, in Luke 8, when Jesus calmed the storm while crossing the lake. And after this, when Jesus in Luke 8 healed the woman who touched his garment. Remember, and he didn't know who touched him? Remember that? That is all after this. So these disciples have experienced a lot. They've seen a lot. A year, 6 months to a year worth of stuff is recorded in the other Gospels. Why do I bring that up? You'll see in a minute. So they went away to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, and it says in verse 2, a large crowd was following him. Matthew 14 says they were actually running around the lake after him while he's going across on a boat. Following him, because they saw the signs that he was doing on the sick. Jesus went up on the mountain, literally a hillside. I think your NIV says hillside. And there he sat down with his disciples. Now, Mark chapter 6 says this was a time of teaching as well. Sermon on the Mount style. But remember, that's already happened. Okay? So Jesus is famous. He's a celebrity. And as we'll see, 5,000 men just showed up. But there's more, because it wasn't just a men's only event. It wasn't a men's breakfast, okay? Everybody was invited, so if you double it and add a spouse, that's 10,000. If you throw a few kids in there, and we'll see that there were kids there, this is a big deal. Jesus is famous, and I would argue so were the disciples, because they had a backstage pass. They had an inside track. they knew fame. They were part of fame. Okay. Verse 4, now the Passover, the feast of the Jews, was at hand. So it's about an April time frame. Lifting up his eyes then and seeing that a large crowd was coming towards him, Jesus said to Philip, where are we to buy bread so that these people may eat? Now, why Philip? Philip was from the area that they had landed the boat, in Bethsaida, on the other side of the Sea of Galilee. Seems like a practical question, seems like a natural one. Hey, a lot of people coming. You can see them. They're here. Philip, you're from this area. Where do we get the food? Normal, logical, but not the reason for the question. Verse 6, he said this to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. That's interesting. So Jesus really wasn't looking for a practical solution because he already knew what he was going to do. And we know that he fed them. What was he looking for? He was looking for a response from Philip that would highlight he's grown and mature in his walk over the last year. Now, we don't know what area was he testing him in, math, English, or in this case, we're told in Matthew 14 that Jesus looked at the crowd and had compassion on him. Was Jesus testing him on his compassion? We don't know. Was Jesus testing him on his strategic ability to solve the problem? Doubt it. So we don't really know what the test was, other than it was a test. It was a progress report, if you will, as it relates to Philip and his experiences and his walk with Jesus. So we get some insight here. When we're talking about how to measure your spiritual progress, I put it this way on your outline. Do you see challenges as spiritual tests? Do you recognize in your life those challenges that are in your life could in fact be a testing from the Lord, a spiritual test of which you can not only pass the test or not, but even see how well you're doing by how you're responding? That may be a new thing for you. How do we respond in challenges, spiritually speaking? And if we go, well, I don't even respond spiritually, well, at a minimum, that needs improvement. But think about it. We don't need to spend a lot of time looking at it, but just think about it. Abraham, patriarch. How did we see his maturity or his progress? How was he tested? Oh, Isaac, remember that one? That's a final exam there. That's a big one. Think about Joseph, a man of faith, a patriarch of the faith. How was he tested? By being thrown in prison, abandoned by his brothers, in a foreign land where he didn't speak the language or have any way out. Keep going. Noah. How was Noah tested? Building a boat for rain that no one's ever had before. Awkward. People mocking him. Was he going to stay the course? He did. Those are all people that got A's and B's. Who's one that failed the test? Remember King Saul? What was his test? Or better yet, who was his test? Goliath. Remember how he responded to that? How about David? How did he respond to that test? And better yet, he was called the king, and Saul was still king. You would think it would just be a beautiful handoff. You would think if God was in this, because he called David, little shepherd boy, and God was in this, that this would just be the perfect, carefree, non-challenging event possible. and David's dodging arrows because Saul's trying to take him out. So if some way we've fallen into this idea that the Christian life should never have challenges, should never have difficulties, then the logic goes, you're probably never going to progress or grow. Because think about just the principle of life. Forget spiritual for a second. Anything that you've grown in, you're mature in, you're kind of the OG in, you're down the road, people look to you. You got there through difficulty. Just think about what it is. You didn't get there because it was easy. You got there because you stayed the course and progressed. Progress through what? Easy? You don't need to progress through easy. Progress through difficulty. Meet somebody that's been married 40 years. Must have been super easy. No, not necessarily. It might have been super hard, but you stayed the course. And we would say, you stayed the course after 50 years. A for you. Somebody else who didn't make it 6 months, not so much. Right? This is life. You go to the gym, you lift weights. What do you lift? What makes you strong? What makes your muscles big? Time and tension. Pushing weights. You will not get cut and big by just walking around the gym and talking to people. Good to see you here too. Let's chat. You see those people and they ain't cut and ripped. Why? And then even how do you measure that? Right? How do you measure if you're doing okay? Well, it's measurable because last week I did arms, and I did 50 pounds, and I did 3 sets of 10. And this week, I did 70 pounds and 3 sets of 10. Are you better? Yeah. How did you measure that? By comparing it to last week. What did it take? A challenge. Isn't it funny that the last rep you do is the hardest, but it has the most impact? Because it's when you push the weights. So this is a rule of life. This idea of challenges grow us, mature us, and it's no different spiritually. I like how Peter put it. 1 Peter 1:6, you have been grieved by various trials. He's writing to Christians. So that, look at this, the tested genuineness of your faith, more precious than gold that perishes though it is tested by fire, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. We test people to become CPAs. We test people to become attorneys. We test people to become law enforcement. We test people in school, all the students. It's just part of life. I could go on and on and on. Why? Because it measures progress. And when you get to a certain point, bing, you get the certification. Bing, you get the whatever. So, how might a challenge in your life and in my life be a spiritual test? Well, first, unlike Philip, well, you'll see his response, but you have to ask and answer the question, is this a spiritual test? I wonder. Now, don't get all bogged down and like, did God bring this to me? And is this over? It's just because this is a test about me. Don't even do that. Did Jesus bring all the 5,000 people to him and make them all hungry so Philip could be tested? Who knows? So don't bog in all the providential stuff. Just ask the question. This is really hard right now. I wonder if this is a test. And if it is a test, how would God want me to respond? Is this a test on loving people that are unlovable? Because I don't like that person. You might say, could be. Is this a test, subset, to be kind when somebody's been a jerk? Now, it doesn't mean you like the test. How many love that last rep before your arms are going to give out and say, oh, that was amazing, love that, let's do it over and over? No. So this isn't about liking it or a pleasant experience or not. This is about seeing a deeper lens, putting it through a deeper lens. Is this a test to be generous? Is this a test to think the best? Oh, here's one. Is this a test to be patient? Ugh, hate the patient test. Now, you can ask and answer the question, is this a test to be patient? You go, man, I haven't been very patient. At that point, probably a D, maybe a F+. And you can adjust. Let's at least knock it up to a C. But do you see how it works? The challenges of life become those places of growth, become those places of recognizing, moving forward, progressing, or not. If we always see it as something bad and to avoid and get rid of and not walk through, survey says you won't grow in any area of life, and also spiritually. Did Philip pass the test? Look at the next verse. Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread would not be enough for each of us to get a little. So, Philip's a number cruncher. He's pulling out the ancient calculator. Based on my estimates, oh, by the way, a denarii is a day's wages. So he's saying not even 200 days' wages are going to give snacks to these people, let alone feed them. So, Jesus, numbers aren't working. It doesn't matter where I go and I can point you to the local bakeries and snack shops and fishermen. We don't have any near the amount of money it's going to require to feed these people. That's Philip. Did he pass the test? He would have passed our test. Thanks for that quick calculation, Philip. Looks like we got a big problem. Look at Andrew. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, there is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what are they for so many? In other words, as I look around, okay, maybe these people have food. This kid's got some food, but that won't even feed us, disciples. So it's hopeless. Thanks for that input, Philip. Glad for that little bonus info, of negativity, cynicism, no hope. How many know those people? How many are those people? So was Philip tested? Now, you might say, wow, the other disciples. Well, here's where we get a little glimpse from the other Gospels. This is what also happened. And when it grew late, his disciples said to him, Jesus, this is a desolate place, and the hour is now late. Send them away. Go into the surrounding countryside and villages and buy them something to eat. In other words, remove the problem. Tell them to leave. Interesting. So Jesus said, have the people sit down. Now there was much grass in that place, so the men sat down, about 5,000 in number. Jesus then took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to those who were seated. So also the fish, as much as they wanted. So he took those little loaves, the little kid's lunch, little snack pack, and he gave it out. And when they had eaten their fill, in verse 12, he told the disciples, gather up leftover fragments that nothing may be lost. So they gathered them up and filled 12 baskets with fragments from the 5 barley loaves left by those who had eaten. 12 baskets. 12 disciples. Just saying, about lessons. When the people saw the sign that he had done, they said, "This is indeed the prophet who has come into the world." So they were making that Deuteronomy 18:18 connection that I talked about last week from Moses, when he said, God said, "I will raise up from them a prophet like you among their brothers, and I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all of they commanded." So they're all excited. Now, look at the initial responses. Philip, we don't have the money. Andrew, it's never going to work. The other disciples, send them all home. In spite of all that, Jesus still performed the miracle. So what was really the test when you think about it? Remember, I told you why that other year is important? They had seen people miraculously healed, starting out with water and wine. So if you want to get into lunch and beverages, they saw that one too. Demon-possessed people delivered, people healed, a dead kid raised from the dead. And not one of them said, "I don't know, Jesus, what do you think we should do?" You have the power to raise people from the dead. You have the power to heal people. You have the power to calm a storm. They didn't say any of that. They just relied on themselves. And when they come up with no answer that was good, end of story. How to measure your spiritual progress. Number 2 on your outline, are you making Jesus your default? Are you making Jesus your default? Do you look to Jesus first when you face a challenge? Or do you exhaust all the resources and he's your last resort? That's what we usually do. So if it was a progress report, we'd go F, especially given the background, especially what they've been exposed to. I mean, we know later Peter kind of tried with the whole boat thing, remember? And Jesus walking on the water, and Peter goes, "Okay, based on everything I've seen, basically, I'm going to come walking to you." Then he got a little thrown off, didn't hang with it, but at least try. I'm Philip. Where are you in the story? My default is to rely on my own strategic thinking, my own insight, my own wisdom first. Pull out the calculator, see if we can figure this thing out. Where are you in the story? Do you just try to remove the problem? What does remove mean? Run from it, avoid it, act like it's not there? There are a lot of ways to remove the problem so we don't have to deal with it rather than walk through it. Or are you just cynical? It's never going to change. There is no hope. This will never happen. They will, it won't, whatever. Just very final, because, you as the creator or creation know a lot more than the creator, right? I mean, this is why my life verse is Ephesians 3:20. It gets me through stuff. Now to him, we're talking about Jesus, who's able to do far more abundantly more than all we ask or think, according to his power at work within us. Be the glory. So in other words, I may not be able to figure it out, but at the end of the day, who am I in the scope of God and his abilities? Because God can do way more than I can even imagine or think. And even if Philip would have said, I'm doing the numbers, they're not working out. Jesus, what do you think? They didn't even respond that way. They just concluded that way. So easy to do. I'm not kidding you. I was studying this point. I was thinking about it in terms of whatever. And I had someone come in my office and talk about a ministry that, wasn't doing as good as it could have, and the numbers were down a little bit. And I immediately, my default was marketing. We're not communicating well. We're not highlighting the benefits. What does the imagery look like? My default. I was Philip immediately. I thought, wow, here I'm studying this thing. It's crazy how easy that is to just nod and go, yeah, super important, make Jesus my default. And then literally 10 minutes later, you forgot about it. In fact, I was talking to staff this week. It was Thursday. And I was looking at this, and I was trying to think back to last week. The admin staff were right outside my office. I just yelled to them. Do you remember what I preached on last week? And it wasn't a test. It was because I didn't. Literally. I'm like, I have no idea what I talked about. Well, that had a lasting impact. I preached it, right? And they got there, but they kind of struggled. Wasn't it about, fake news? Well, what did I preach on? CNN versus Fox? I mean, what are you talking about here? And then they kind of said, no, it was about the gospel. Oh, and then it triggered. That's right, people gave their faith, martyred for the gospel. That's right, miracles proved. Okay, it's 3-point sermon. I even remember that. Yeah. All I'm getting at is, we're going to forget this unless we're intentional about reminders. So for me, I got to put it on screensaver. For me, I got to put a Post-it note. For me, I got to have those reminders, because we'll go right back to our defaults. And then when the challenge comes again, we will fail the test again because we're still self-reliant and not looking to the Lord. So, what's your current default at work? What's your current default in your marriage? It's interesting. I get husbands and wives that want to come in and chat because, things are going not so well, and, there's arguments or whatever, and then we kind of hear it, and you kind of hear the dynamics of male and female. Men figure it out, women feel it out. They're in touch with the emotional piece. They're in touch with, this guy's like, I don't get it. It's a math problem. Let's just solve it, right? And then both sides go, well, if you could just be more emotional, you would connect with reality of what love feels like. Well, if you could just be more logical, we wouldn't have to get into all our things, right? Basically, just be more like me, right? But if Jesus was our default, not be more like me, my guess is we'd argue less. Because if Jesus was our default, it's challenging. I'm starting to get angry. Lord, this is a test. I want to pass the test. What should my response be? Love. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love doesn't keep any record of wrong. Love hopes for good things. Love endures. Okay, you idiot, be like me, right? I mean, it just doesn't work. And so my hunch is if we had Jesus more of our default, just in general, we would probably even argue less. Anyway, that's a sidebar. But probably reality. So what does the default look in your work? Strategically putting together that proposal? How about praying about it? Inserting Jesus. How about your kids? I don't want to touch that one right now. But that's the world of competitive children is really the world of competitive parents. I touched it. I shouldn't have touched it. Let's just stop right there. How can you insert Jesus, let's just go keep it contained, in a current challenge that you're going through? Whatever that is, whoever that is, whatever that is. I was thinking about report cards, and I remember it was always a tense time when I was a kid, because especially the report card at the end, the final report card, because that was the report card, you'd friends, what'd you get? What'd you get? But then you also got the news whether you passed or not. Yeah, back in my day, you could flunk a grade. Do they do that anymore? No. Okay, I know some teachers are out there, they go, no, they don't even do that. Everyone's a winner. No, back in my day, and I'm not sounding super old because I am, you could fail, and it was devastating. I'll never forget my friend, Greg Quirk, failed 3rd grade. I'm like, dude, you failed. He had to stay there while we graduated to the 4th grade and went on the big kids' side of the playground. And there's Greg, like it's like a prison camp. And he's like over there, and it's like, that would be so devastating. And it follows you their whole life. You're always a year behind your friends in high school and everything. So that was always nerve-wracking. Okay, the reason I bring up that story is I don't want our time together in thinking through this progress report card approach to be this kind of devastating thing. This is to support. This is to encourage. That if things are lacking or aren't quite there, no one's going to flunk a grade. I suppose you could flunk a life if at the end of your life it ended on a real, whatever. Forget that metaphor. Stick with this. This is not to be negative, okay? And here's the deal. I would put forth that would have been a much more pleasant discussion, a much more encouraging discussion, a much more unifying discussion if all these guys would have defaulted to Jesus first. Because I guarantee you Philip started panicking because he felt like he was being looked to solve the problem. Andrew probably felt like running. The others did, send them home, get us out of here, tension. But when we look to the Lord first, stress goes down. So this is a progress report. No one's gonna flunk. The question is, do we need improvement? Is it satisfactory? Is it excellent? Put it through these lenses during these challenging times, and it'll get us on our way to really understanding if we're moving forward or not. Lord, I know that probably to some way it was a little disappointing that as you tested the disciples to see maybe their lack of faith in you after everything they've seen and experienced. And I know in many ways probably we disappoint you as well. We've been so blessed by you and so cared for by you, and when we think of the cross and your sacrifice for us and how little we include you in our thinking of everyday life. And so Lord, I do pray for all of us here and the challenges that we're facing, that if, and I know it's not always, but if there are tests and there are things that we can learn about ourselves and grow from, help us to put that lens on to see it that way. And not only just ask if it's a test, but to see where the test is and how we can default to you. And so, Lord, I pray for that kind of growth and also for our memories, that we would remember this the next time struggle happens and see things a little bit differently, how you see them. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you guys. We'll see you next week. Thanks.